This is Holly Fry from Stuff You Missed in History class. Toyota is a leader when it comes to electrified vehicles. Today, battery EVs make up less than 10% of new vehicles sold because of higher cost and concerns about range and charging. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future. With an electrified, diversified lineup of hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and battery EVs, Toyota empowers you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint. Learn more and get details at toyota.com/beyondzero. Toyota, let's go places.
Stick to the plan. Trust no one.
From the director of Seven, Fight Club, and Gone Girl.
Anticipate. Don't improvise.
Michael Fassbender.
Forbid empathy. Empathy is weakness. Weakness is vulnerability. This is what it takes if you want to succeed.
The Killer. Rated R. Under 17. Not admitted without parent. In select theaters October. Streaming on Netflix November 10th.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a Baller.
Welcome in. It's Wednesday, November 1st, or as Mike calls it, Christmas season.
Oh, it is. Yes. All right, we record a little bit early, so I'm still in spooky season. But yes, it is Christmas time. Thank you.
So, Mike, does spooky season last literally one day, and then we're right into Christmas season, or how does that work?
Oh no, spooky season is definitely allowed October 1st.
Okay,
and I'm fine. You know, if people want to start running it in September, it doesn't bother me. It's like for me, September. It's a little bit too long because Halloween's. It's not as multifaceted as the holiday season and things like that. So, but I get it. I get the people that love Halloween. They are very much into Halloween, and I'm okay with it. It's all anti-Thanksgiving. That's everything comes back to that.
I understand that. As a former teacher, there's a lot of stuff you learn where you're just going, you know what? This is a little different from what I was told as a child. But
you sure about that?
You sure about that? But also, Mike, I don't know if I agree with that take with you and Jason. I mean, I love that you guys are for it. I think I like that more, that you're so into that take than the take itself. So I applaud you for that.
You're saying you're not a November 1st Christmas season right away?
No, I'm not a clown, but that's fine.
Yeah,
so what is November then?
You got to wait just a couple weeks. Like, let's get at least to Thanksgiving, or at least the week of Thanksgiving or something, and then it can be Christmas season. But
that's
man.
My Christmas is awesome. Christmas is fantastic, and it's having 3 weeks of Christmas is not enough.
Maybe the part is Mike, you grew up in Arizona. Betz and I have been East Coast boys, and so we actually feel like this is like pretty cold, and it's going to get colder. But you're just kind of swimming in the same season.
Oh, it's still hot here.
Yeah, I don't miss part of that, but I do miss getting to see your face all the time. On this show, we will be talking about stats that matter for Dynasty. We're going to compare a number of young players, including something I honestly did not think that we would be coming on a podcast season at all, and saying, man, maybe Will Levis is better than we thought.
Well, we'll see. Let's pump the brakes.
Okay, that's fine with me. I will be discussing Will Levis later. I went back, watched the tape, grinded the tape, boys, and man, the Falcons really screwed the pooch on that one. It was bad.
Yes,
it was very, very bad. But before we get into it, Mike, you wanted to highlight a running back that you went all in for Dynasty.
I had to do it. I stand by my screw them RBs take. But I had to make a move to compete. I had to get a stronger RB2, Alexander Madison. You know, it's been an okay-ish season for Madison, but there is certainly a chance that Cam Akers takes over, and so I had to be proactive with that. So, having said that, I was offered multiple different trades. They were all around surrounding Derrick Henry. So I don't know if Kyle, do you know what the actual? Don't say it, but do you know what the actual trade ended up being?
I did not.
Okay, all right, perfect. And Betz has no idea what because he's not in the league at all. So here you go. Here were the 4 options that I was given, and you can try and see try and guess where I landed. All right, here we go. Because in for context, my starting offer was a 2025 first and a 2024 second, just picks for Derrick Henry. And then I got these counter offers. Number 1, Alexander Mattison and a 2025 first for Derrick Henry. A.J. Dillon and a 2025 first for Derrick Henry. Take it easy over here, fellas. Zay Flowers for Derrick Henry. Or Najee Harris and a 2024 second for Derrick Henry. So which one do you think I took, and which one would you have taken?
There's no way you dealt your boy Zay Flowers straight up.
Yes. Yeah, we can just get that one out of the way.
Not a chance. So
screw them RBs. I'm not trading a rookie wide receiver who looks like he's already a hit.
Right.
I feel like you would have been super glad to not have AJ Dillon on your team. So that one's kind of interesting. I think you went with the Najee one.
What do you think?
I was going to say the exact same thing. I think the Najee one.
All right. You are correct. I traded away Najee Harris and a 2024 second. The fact that it was, I know it's this year, but it's a second, and now I still have 2 firsts in 25, where I was like, that's some good ammo to have. And then, honestly, the way I've looked at it was, okay, what is the future of Najee Harris? He's a Steeler next year. Like, next year is year 4, so that's part of his first-round contract. That's not even including the 5th-year option, which at this point, I guess neither side would surprise me if the Steelers are just like, yeah, we'll pay him for that 5th year. But it's like, what is the future of Najee with Jaylen Warren there? You know, it's a timeshare. Is this offense ever going to get it going together or get it together? Lower draft pick. And honestly, I was, trying to find the future for any of these players. And it's like Madison is still under contract next year and cheap. Like, he'll still be on the team. I don't know what's going to happen with Cam Akers or if they replace him. And then A.J. Dillon is heading into free agency. So while A.J. Dillon has been incredibly disappointing, my thought process was for next year, who has an actual chance? It's very small, but a chance. This is what Dynasty is, latching onto those small probability chances. A.J. Dillon has a small percentage chance to improve his fantasy outlook over Najee, in my opinion, heading into 2024. So that combined with the smaller amount of draft capital, I traded away my boy Najee Harris, and me and old man Yeti, we're trying to make a title run here. We are, at the time of this recording, I think we have like 20 minutes until the NFL trade deadline. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But I don't even, at this point, let me ask you guys this. Do you think it's better for Derrick Henry to be on the Titans with the chance that Will Levis is just at least a competent quarterback plus their schedule, or is it better for him to go be part of a timeshare for the Baltimore Ravens?
I think that's
by the time people are hearing this, but it's just like, let's just muse on it for just a second.
Well, I was going to ask you if you made the trade with the hopes of a Derrick Henry trade or not, but I think just speaking to if he's on the Titans, which by the time you're listening to this, you will know, it seems likely. I mean, at this point, like, he should be heavily involved, right? And I know Kyle's going to talk about Will Levis in detail, and I don't want to...
Tape grinder.
Yeah, gosh, this guy grinds the table all the time. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's a 1-game sample, and everyone's like, oh, Will Levis is definitely the answer. I think Derrick Henry is going to be the answer as far as their game plan moving forward. Will Levis got there on deep bombs and efficiency, not a lot of pass attempts. It was Derrick Henry who touched the ball a ton last week coming out of the bye week. So I think it's going to be the Derrick Henry show moving down the stretch here, and man, we know when it gets colder, it's Yeti season. So I think Derrick Henry's going to be heavily involved.
I heard there was snow in Vermont over the weekend. Is that true?
I can't confirm nor deny since I don't live there anymore. However, I will reach out to my sources, aka the internet, in 1 second.
I'm not here to sniff your farts, Mike, but I will say that
what a sentence.
Trading for an old running back that's at the end of the line, but has a great schedule and is honestly, you want to get a player that just has a chance at upside. There is no chance that Najee Harris could have given you any spike weeks as you get closer to the playoffs. So it's at the point of the season where you can throw out age, you can throw out all these other contract stuff. And I see these questions all the time in our Discord. They're like, oh, I'm a competing team. Should I still try to trade on the fly and think about next year? It's like, no, you are trying to win a championship right now. Don't just always play for a year or two out. At some point, you're going to try to win right now. So these are the kind of moves that people are making. I'm seeing them all the time. And we're going to be talking Dynasty trades over the next couple of weeks on this show because the trade deadlines are approaching in a lot of leagues. So that should be fun. But I want to look at some players that behind the scenes, things changed a little bit. I think a lot of times we only look at fantasy production, but let's go through a couple of week 8 snap count observations. Betz, I will let you start first with a player who is trending up, and you might even be flexing him this week in Dynasty.
Yeah, he's sort of the hot name on the waiver wire for wide receivers this week in redraft leagues. It is Demario Pop Douglas, which just
Demario Pop.
Give him extra points just for that. Sweet name. But over the last 2 weeks has played 67 and 77% of the snaps. And obviously now we have a wide receiver room that they basically have kind of not used Juju at all this year. Devontae Parker's in concussion protocol. Kendrick Bourne, who's quietly been really good this year, is out with the ACL. He's done for the year. Behind that, it's Jalen Reagor and Tyquan Thornton, who was a healthy scratch last week. It's bad, man. It's really bad. But you've got Pop Douglas playing snaps, and it's a small sample, but this year, when he's been on the field, he has earned targets at a pretty high level. 26% targets per route run is a very good mark for any player, let alone a rookie wide receiver, especially a guy that's a late round pick like Pop Douglas. So I'm very interested to see kind of what his usage is moving forward. He's kind of been only a 3 wide receiver set sort of guy for them, but they've shown zero willingness, like I said, to get Tyquan Thornton involved, Juju involved, those kind of guys. So this wide receiver room is ugly. He needs to be a focal point moving forward.
Yeah, he's one of those players that's kind of forced himself on the field in preseason. New England beat writers kept talking about him, and I can't really tell in preseason. It's oh, well, here's just a name for you to talk about because you need to write something. But at the end of the day, he has forced his way on the field. You mentioned his targets per out run. And guys, what was their plan at wide receiver before the season when they had a meeting? Did they have a meeting? Or did they just kind of say, let's throw some money at Juju. Let's throw even more money at Devontae Parker. It's weird.
They didn't have a good plan. They've not had aside from the they have been let's call it, they've been lucky. Very, very lucky. So thinking about it, the trade for Randy Moss, when he was disheveled, was quitting on the NFL, Randy Moss's career looked like it might be basically coming to an end of just him not liking the game. Still had the physical assets, but they get him. Obviously, incredible things happen for the Patriots and Randy Moss. The trade getting Wes Welker, didn't they get him from the Dolphins or something?
Yes.
And but who could you have really seen him turning into that? Then you had Julian Edelman, who was a defensive back, I think a 7th round pick or something. And over the course of his career, he turned into that slot wide receiver, but they've not been very good at identifying wide receivers just in general over recent history. So it shouldn't be all that surprising that they keep whiffing.
Yeah, it's a weird team. I'm going to stay in the AFC East and give you another wide receiver who is burst onto the scene somehow, out of nowhere, because Khalil Shakir, wide receiver for Buffalo Bills, their 5th round draft pick the year before, I feel like he was just sitting on dynasty rosters of I don't know if this guy's ever going to give us anything meaningful. And then in week 8, he leads the team in receiving yards, goes 6 for 92, 65% of the snaps. So I wanted to mention that because that's his highest snap count since week 4 of last year. So it's like Dawson Knox was on IR, their backup tight end Quentin Morris was out, and Kincaid was the only active tight end on the roster. So they said basically, screw it, we can't do 12 personnel this week. Let's go back to 11. And Shakir was pretty great. His 92 receiving yards in the slot were the second most by a Bills slot wide receiver of the last 2 years per Pro Football Focus. So it's tough because I think they want to do 12 personnel, but I feel like the thing that's been off about this team this year is they're almost trying to make that happen. They're trying to make fetch happen, to quote Mean Girls, and it's just not. So I kind of like them in 11 personnel because they used to be like number 1 in the league. So Shakir is interesting. I don't think you can play him every single week. Like, you don't just think, oh, he's their new slot guy. Like, they rotated in, who was it, Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy, but he's at least a name to notice. And I think all of us thought, like, you could gamble on him. Maybe he's a thing. But it was nice to see.
Yeah, and that was, like, the thing, the shift from 12 back to 11 once Knox was put on the IR. I think that's one of those things that was, like, it's right there. It's so clear and obvious that they will have to do this, but we didn't put enough attention on it. And Shakir was the one who came through. I think it's very interesting to be at 65%, actually succeed. And the Bills have been looking for that player for a long time. It was like Cole Beasley kind of had his moment there for the Bills for a little bit, but then they wanted to replace it. Like, it seems like the draft of Dalton Kincaid was a little bit of, well, he's the best receiving option left on the board who can play the inside for us. So it shouldn't be really shocking that if someone has an ability like Shakir and he's stepping up, I don't think it's too crazy, and it might be a little sticky. We'll see. The guy I wanted to highlight is it finally Zach Charbonnet time for the Seattle Seahawks? It remains to be seen. We had Ken Walker missing multiple days of practice with Betz. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was a calf issue.
Calf issue. So he was cleared. Walker was cleared. Did not have an injury designation, and played, but played extremely low snaps, 41%, hit the lowest of the season. Had the huge run, and it looked like we were off to the races with Kenneth Walker again. But then he just finished with 8 for 66 on the ground. Meanwhile, Charbonnet, 59% of the snaps, couple catches. He was drafted in the second round for a reason. I don't think that this is the new normal of Charbonnet plays more than Walker, but all of us that had Walker on our Dino teams, it kind of was like a false sense of confidence over those first few weeks where it was like, okay, no, we're good. Don't worry about anything, everyone. Kenneth Walker is still the guy. He's going to get all the touches because that's what it looked like. But behind the scenes was Charbonnet had his own injury to deal with. Now he's healthy. Flip the script. Kenneth Walker's dealing with injury, as he often has already in his young career. But something to pay attention to, that this could end up being 50-50 much sooner than later.
You're hoping that this player is usable this year. And I wonder if we're going to get that sooner than later. I think we kind of just hope it's injury only. Like, do you think it could turn into 60-40?
For Charbs at the 40?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I think that is very possible. And then it comes down to who is playing inside, who's in the red zone, and who's inside the 10. Because that could easily be Charbonnet with, big grinder body. So that would be a terrifying thing for Kenneth Walker managers. Not that he can't hit a home run, he absolutely can. But you still want the easy touchdowns. And if Charbonnet takes them away, by the end of the season, it could be a ugly situation.
I was going to say, too, just in general with Seattle, the rookies over the last couple of years, it's been a slow burn, right? And we're seeing that with JSN, where it's not just he's on the field right away out of the gate. He's kind of taking time to earn targets, earn playing time. Same could be true for Charbonnet. Like, if he's healthy, as the weeks goes on and we get to the fantasy playoffs, I would not be surprised if he is seeing the ball a little bit more, just because that's kind of what Seattle has historically done. So, yeah, and then, like you said, you've got the injury upside as well. If Walker would miss time, you know what you've got in Charbonnet.
There's only pain involved, though, with Pete Carroll. That's
Yes.
There's just, I mean, if you're a manager of a Seattle player, you're just holding your breath every single week. Like, are they just going to unleash? Like, they've been scoring too. Since week 2, I think they've been averaging like 20, 27 points. And yet there's still weeks where you're like, how are they going to distribute the ball? So they're a good team, but I feel like they could be great offensively, and it's just kind of like muddled some weeks. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime. This Thursday, 2 of the NFL's toughest teams tangle when the Tennessee Titans travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. Live from Pittsburgh, it's the Titans and the Steelers on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing. And once again, Toyota is leading the way. We hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota has them with more on the way. But we also know a BEV is not for everyone, whether it's because of cost, range, or concerned about finding a charging station when you need it. Plus, the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future. In vehicles and in manufacturing plants too. In the years ahead, the materials used to make just one long-range battery for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas-electric hybrids. That's why Toyota's position today is electrified, diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint with a vehicle that's right for you. A hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV. So shop, learn more, and get details at toyota.com/Beyond Zero. Toyota, let's go places.
All right, we're going to dig into some stats in just a second, but I had a stat that I don't know if Mike's aware of this because you just did the Halloween episode.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that haven't checked that out on YouTube, like, do yourself a favor, check it out. It's a great episode. But I want you to know, Mike, that you broke a 44 episode streak of wearing a hat.
Oh, because I had a wig on.
You had gone 44 straight episodes wearing a hat.
Interesting.
Is it the longest of your career? I haven't added up all of the numbers yet, but you've been on a crazy streak. And Jason himself.
Yeah, Jason has stolen my look with the hat, being the fantasy hat man. I don't know if that's my longest streak ever or not. But it might be.
The early days, there were no hats involved.
Well, the early days, I had the man bun, and you can't even wear a hat with that. And then I cut the hair real short, so it's, very, very easy to manage. Just a little bit of product, and you're good to go. And now I keep the hair longer just in case I need to be fancy, but I wear a hat almost 100% of the time right now.
You are a handsome and fancy man. Good shout out a long time ago for the show. And then last thing, Mike, did you know that when you cut your hair, fun fact of the show, was the exact same episode that Jay Grizz debuted?
Ooh, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that does make sense.
I'm just
if you're a fantasy footballer's trivia, man.
It is, there's another level of fantasy footballers lore of just like, okay, there's fantasy football, and then there's just what the show's become. So it's pretty fun. It's a weird thing. If you think about it, you have a weird job, and we all have weird jobs.
Yes, extremely weird.
Yes, super fun. All right, let's get into it.
Dig deeper, y'all. Let's go!
That's also a really old drop.
That's
an old drop.
You got to reach back and dig deep, right? That's the goal.
That quote, I don't think it is a direct from it, but are you guys familiar with Beachbody, the company? P90X?
Beachbody?
Yes.
Oh,
P90X,
yes.
So Beachbody's the company that did P90X, and then the fella that did Hip Hop Abs also did a program called Insanity, which, shout out to anyone who's ever done it. It is in fact insane to do it. Like if you want immediate shin splints, go ahead and fire that thing up. But that was one of his things that he would like yell that all the time.
I had a roommate in college that went on a P90X kick, and I'm pretty sure he got into Insanity as well and just ruined his life in a good way. Like he was shredded afterwards, but
yes,
it's pretty wild. So on this episode, I think it'll be super helpful for a lot of people to gauge where young players are at. I think that's something you're doing on the fly in Dynasty of saying, okay, so I have this quarterback, I have this wide receivers in year 2 or year 3. Are they meeting a bar that I need to actually move forward? Like, are they giving me the type of results, or is there something that tells me like, hey, I can move on despite them being young? Like young receivers keep their Dynasty value for a while because they're tantalizing. There's a reason why Terrace Marshall was my dude and I held on. And then I just...
Are you still holding? Where are we at on that?
I dropped him to the bottom of the Atlantic.
All right.
No, I said... you had to move on. Yeah, and he was supposed to be one of those players traded. Apparently no one wants him. I don't know why. He just went to the wrong team. But on this episode, we're going to be talking about some of those players, some bars, and some stats that matter. So we'll talk about rookie quarterbacks first, because it was a big week. Will Levis had a big week. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud this past week played each other. So we're going to talk about some of those. But when it comes to stats for young quarterbacks, one, they need time. They need actual starts. So it's hard because Will Levis just had his first start, and the Panthers and Texans are generally bad teams. What I care about most, and this is from my research, is that if a rookie quarterback starts 9+ games, then they usually end up being a QB1 in the next couple years. In fact, 75% of quarterbacks with 9+ starts end up giving you at least one QB1 season the next 2 years. So that's good news. That's really good. We care about rushing ability, which we're not really seeing from these guys. And we also care about ADOT. Now, ADOT takes a little bit to stabilize. You can't just say, here's 2 or 3 weeks. But for the first couple weeks, it was like Bryce Young throwing the ball 2 yards down the field. Betz, I will let you start first because Young pretty much had his best game of the year. They kind of shocked most people by winning at the very end against the Texans 15-13. So what did you see in Young, and what can we expect moving forward for fantasy football?
Yeah, this is, I think, a really interesting topic because going into the bye, we got the news that they were going to change their play caller, and everyone thought, okay, well, what does that mean? Do we see a more aggressive game plan? Did they just get different players involved? What does this mean for Adam Thielen? And what happened in general is that the team went more aggressive, more pass first, which is exciting for all the Panthers pass catchers. Gave us an opportunity to see Bryce Young a little bit more in, I think, favorable passing situations. They were so conservative early in the year that he was kind of behind the 8 ball and he was having to throw in, second and long situations, third and long situations. And for any quarterback, that's hard to succeed, let alone a rookie quarterback. And so just to put some numbers to it, with Thomas Brown as the OC, they posted a +6% pass rate over expectation. In the first 5 games they had, it was -2%. So small sample, we'll see if that sticks. But at least what I saw is that this offense is willing to test him a little bit more as the year goes on. Coming out of the bye, he did have his best game of the year, statistically speaking. 71% completion rate, 7.6 YPA, and a QBR over 100. Now, did it translate to fantasy success for him? No, and I don't think it's really going to. So to me, this isn't about can Bryce Young be a top 10, top 12 fantasy quarterback. I think there will be a few weeks here and there where it happens. He just doesn't have the ceiling I think that we're looking for, but at least it leaves the light on for Jonathan Mingo and, of course, Adam Thielen moving forward, maybe DJ Chark for a few weeks here and there. So I just saw better overall play as a passer. The area where he struggled, he took 6 sacks. That's still a little bit of an issue, but at least they were more aggressive play calling. And like I said, I think it's better for the weapons in Carolina short term than for Young himself as a fantasy asset.
People wanted him to be Russell Wilson. And one, he doesn't run like that. And unless I see him being unleashed, it's hard for me to ever see a finish for him better than fringe QB1, like QB 11, 12 on a season. So Is that kind of like the range that you're thinking for him? Like, I know we only have 7 starts, but that's what I've seen so far.
Yeah, we were a little concerned just in general about his fantasy ceiling outlook as a fantasy quarterback when he entered the NFL, and he hasn't really shown us much that should change that idea. Like I said, can he be a middle to back end quarterback too in fantasy? Sure. But is that going to matter? Does that change your team's outlook? Does that help you actually win a championship? I don't really think so. So I'm still not necessarily sold on him as a fantasy asset in and of himself. Like I said, more just encouraged by, I guess, his ability to potentially support different, pass catchers, not just Adam Thielen.
This week, they have a fun matchup against Indianapolis, who's been bleeding points in the Frank Reich revenge game. So that's kind of a fun game. I feel like if you're, you have him in Dynasty and you're in a 2 QB league, you can at least be excited. Mike.
Especially on this week's slate, where we got Clayton Tune and Jaron Hall and the boys out there.
Yeah.
Mike, hit us with our boy. Is Coleridge Bernard Stroud IV.
Wait, is that his real name?
Yeah.
His full name, I should say. Hey, that's not bad. Yeah, it's just, the conversation around CJ Stroud is just where, because it's similar to Bryce Young in the fact that there's no real, he doesn't have the rushing superpower. He's, for the most part, has been pretty consistently giving us 2 passing touchdowns, but where is the confidence level with Stroud right now, where, of course, it's off to a bit of a rocky start. He had to open up on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, and we saw at least some flashes in that game of, whoa, okay, maybe Stroud could play in the NFL. But then from week 3 to 6 in that 4-game span, we had a top 12 finish in 3 of them. But we've kind of have this unfortunate arc of now we're coming back down, and there's more game tape on CJ Stroud. Do you think he is the downturn here the past couple of weeks? Is he a victim of matchup, or is our NFL defense is figuring something out? What I like for Stroud versus Bryce Young is he has some capable weapons to grow with, where, yeah, I get Adam Thielen has been a superstar this year. And maybe we all got fooled. Maybe Adam Thielen fooled the entire world last year when he looked like he was absolutely washed, and it turns out, no, something weird was going on, or he was just banged up, and he's going to be okay for a couple years. But so I feel more confident in CJ Stroud's weapons. But this downturn here of especially yards per attempt, where it slowly ratcheted up to 10, but now this past week we were down to 5.8 despite completing a whole bunch of his passes. What have you guys seen from Stroud the last couple weeks? Is your confidence the same? Is it a little bit shaky? Where are you at with him, Betz?
Yeah, I'm mostly the same. It's kind of where we've been. For any rookie quarterback, we shouldn't expect it to be perfect in year one. There's going to be ups and downs. And I think we've seen enough. Again, it's a small sample. It's only 8 games. For all these guys, it's a small sample. But we've seen enough to know that he's succeeding, I think, where it matters most. And as Kyle has always pointed out, it's in that short to intermediate area of the field. Can you hit those throws on a consistent basis? I think the answer is yes. He's also shown a willingness that he's not afraid to throw over the middle of the field, which you need to do in today's NFL to succeed. And so, like you mentioned, he's got those weapons. I like what they're doing with their offensive coordinator and their play caller in general. The issue is when they have lost this year, their actual pass rate has been low. And it seems like they're almost trying to force the run game to happen, even though the run game has not been great in recent weeks. So just put some numbers to that. In their wins, their pass rate over expectation has been right around neutral, minus 1.6%. In their losses, it's minus 6%. So I think they just need to let Stroud go, man, and let it happen. So I've seen enough to know that, or I think I know rather, that he should be an above average starter in the league as time goes on. So I'm still holding strong.
I think you can also say that his weapons aren't elite, right? It's like they're
Correct.
Good.
They're good though. Yeah.
They're good young players, but there are games where Tank Dell's still a rookie, and there are games where Nico Collins is just going to not create separation, and he's kind of a lumberer still. So I just worry there will be games where this team will not be competitive if they can't run the ball. So they're trying to run the ball, but then it kind of doesn't work out in a way they need to. So I'm still on him. Like,
what if they got T. Higgins next year?
Ooh, baby.
Okay. That was a good reaction.
Talking.
I just love Stroud. I feel like he's a gamer. I think they just need to get more creative with him. But I think it hasn't really changed since, week 3 or 4. We're like, okay, this is the player they got at number 2 overall. I want to mention Bananarama, Will Levis, because this is what I said in our Slack channel. I said, Will Levis drop kicked us all, and then he danced on our graves. And I'm including myself.
For a week.
Yes, for a week. So what I did is I went back, grinded the tape, as the boys said, but mostly to remember why, as a Falcons fan, when you count on us, count us out. Okay, so while everybody was like, I'm going to play the Falcons defense. No, don't do that. I mean, you can play them, but just don't expect them to come through. And the bombs, the deep bombs, are the one that's going to get a lot of the publicity because Hopkins, Akine Westbrook had one. Burks dropped a deep bomb, by the way, and Okonkwo dropped one too, which pour one out. The raw tools, guys, were very clear. Like we didn't come into this saying Will Levis can't throw the ball 40 yards downfield. We came into this saying, I don't know about his decision making, and that's the one thing that when I went back and watched every single throw, when things were off script, he completed just 36% of his passes under pressure. And the Falcons don't create very much pressure, by the way. So Will Levis, when he's challenged to go off what is actually there, I think it's going to be an issue. And he can throw it 50, 60 yards down the field. I just don't think that's always repeatable. So can you play him every single week? No, you should not. Like, do you guys have other thoughts? I know we've kind of been mostly anti-Levis, but is there anything that you saw that said like, okay, I was wrong about this, or he's better than what I thought in this area?
I don't think you can really know yet, right? I mean, it's one game, like you said, Atlanta.
Your job is for hot takes, Betz.
I'm not going to give them, Mike. I'm going to let them fall to you. Atlanta really, like you said, Kyle, kind of disappointed. And when would they ever do that, right? They're disappointed in this spot defensively. Bunch of deep attempts. I mean, he only attempted 29 passes, right? And 8.2 YPA, 13% touchdown rate. Obviously, that small sample stuff is not enough to give us an answer. I think relative to the expectations around the industry, it was like, oh, okay, this exceeded our expectations. So I'm excited that there's at least a chance that this could work out. And look, if this team, we'll see what happens with the record and everything like that. But if they are, competitive down the stretch and they can somehow see the wild card spot, I'd be so interested to see what this team does. Like, do they keep going with Will Levis or go back to Ryan Tannehill, who's still on the roster? So in the short term, I'm excited to see what happens here. They get a tough matchup against the Steelers and their pressure with TJ Watt and company this week. So I'm interested to see how he does on a short week. But I think you at least leave the light on that this is better than it could have expected.
Yeah, I like the fact that we have someone who's going to challenge downfield. Ryan Tannehill has 2 passing touchdowns on the year. He played 6 games. Well, almost 6 games. So the fact that we have someone who's willing to do that and has like a really big, strong arm where Tannehill has not looked the same. Like we're a far ways from the year that got him the bag of money from Tennessee. But this year in particular, Ryan Tannehill to the eyeball has looked uncomfortable and old, I guess would be a good way to describe how he's looked for me. So to have a competent quarterback, that's gigantic for Derrick Henry. And one of the touchdowns was some of the most absurd offensive pass interference I've ever seen not get called. DeAndre Hopkins literally made the defender do a 360 out of bounds, but he was looking at the ball, so I guess it was all okay to the ref. So some really fluky stuff here, but he has traits. At least he's all powered up from the banana peels. So we'll see if moving forward we can get anything. But I'm with Betz. I think with his matchup against Watt coming up, there could be some problems.
His arm motion. This was my note too. It feels more like a dart throw.
Yeah,
like
it's a strange.
The ball.
It's a very strange swinging motion.
Yeah, one of the comps that people gave was Josh Allen, which playing style in college, Will Levis definitely had some moments where he's like trying to run like Josh Allen, but their throwing motion could not be more different in terms of Josh Allen's just got to get that big, long arm. Levis just kind of like places a dart, and he gets enough on it that it goes further than what you think based on the arm motion, but he can be a menace vertically. Like, that can actually happen. I just wonder with this team, and Treylon Burks, by the way, has dropped, I feel like, 7 balls this year. It's
he was getting so much hype in camp and buzz. Remember that? Those are the days.
Oh man, you remember July, guys? August.
I remember his rookie draft scouting season. I loved Burks, but
Speaking of wide receivers, we are going to talk about a couple stats that matter and check in on some players, some young players, because I think a lot of people have wide receivers on their roster. They're supposed to have the longest shelf life in Dynasty, and yet you're trying to figure out, what is this player? So, guys, right now we are only 8 weeks into the season, so you can't just totally say this is where a player's at. But usually, if a wide receiver's targets per out run is 15% or below, it's like, okay, they're just they're running routes. They're cardio kings, as Betz calls them. The MVSs and Alec Pierces of the world are just running, man. So those are the ones we care about. And then yards per route run. If a player has a yards per route run below 1, meaning they're not gaining a yard for every route run, then that's not good either. That's the Sky Moore level that we look at. So, Mike, I will let you talk first about a player that you maybe have some concerns about 8 weeks into his career.
I just wanted to, to have the conversation about it. It's the guy I talked about in my trade earlier. It is my boy Zay Flowers, who week 1, it was absolutely incredible. Not necessarily the total production, but the fact that I think he had 10 targets. I mean, a rookie getting 10 targets in their first game is spectacular. But I want to try to step back and objectively look at it, because I am emotionally connected to Zay Flowers. I drafted him in Dynasty, was one of my guys that I was touting for the offseason of, you need to get this guy in redraft. His ADP is way too late. And I think he's been a good pick so far from where he was going. But moving forward, what is the future for Zay Flowers? Again, we're only 8 games into the career or whatever. But one of the things that we also want to see is at least about a 10-yard average depth of target, the ADOT. And Zay Flowers has been used a lot close to the line of scrimmage. We're talking 66% of his targets it's under that 10-yard, the 10-yard mark that we're looking for. And it's not that he can't do it. Zay Flowers was just destructive in his final season in college. Like, this guy was a big play machine, but the Ravens are not using him like that, at least not frequently. Every once in a while we see him get to go open it up and go downfield. But he's being used a lot close to the line of scrimmage, and just the human nature of things. Once, as people, as humans, once we decide this is how something works, it often shapes the forever future of that person or, that thing. Like, so I'm starting to get a little bit of the concerns of, not that he's not his talent, but his utilization in this offense. Is Monken going to say, no, this is my short area guy. This is my screen guy, and I'll let Bateman or whoever be the person who goes downfield. So it's not that things can't change, because we saw Keenan Allen's rookie year. Keenan Allen was a deep threat his rookie year. Then he got totally pulled back and was the short yardage, good route running player. So just wondering if you guys have any of those concerns that I'm talking about, of this is how Zay Flowers is being used, and it's good. Like, this will probably be the offense, at least for the next year or two. And is that how they're just going to keep using him? Because if it is, it's you won't get the potential that Zay Flowers actually brings as a talent.
It's a little concerning, like you mentioned, that 30% of his targets behind the line of scrimmage is is not something you want to see. I mean, that's like Rondale Moore type of stuff where you're like, okay, that can work in a PPR league, but it's not something you want from a first-round wide receiver that he's also weird because 20% of his targets are deep. So it's like they want to take deep shots. They like throwing him screens, and they're doing nothing. I mean, nothing in the intermediate area, it's a weird offense. Betz, do you have a read on Monken? Because we've all been very pro Monken, the three of us, and I feel like the usage has been not what we want.
What's so funny is I wonder if Todd Monken knows he was like this fantasy football hero all summer, or we thought he was going to be this fantasy football hero all summer. But yeah, it has been confusing. I'm actually looking right now at his route charts on Next Gen Stats. Those are actually kind of fun to check out. There's games where like literally it's like 10 yards down the field and under in every route he's run. And then there's one like in week 5 where everything is down the field. So it's kind of been a week to week situation where you don't really know what the role is going to be for Zay Flowers. I would like to see him used more on easy routes like crossers and stuff. Get him moving with the ball in his hands across the middle of the field. They haven't done that yet. I don't know if that's going to change if they're still trying to figure out his role. It seems somewhat discombobulated right now in Baltimore, and I just kind of wonder, like, are they still trying to make Rashad Bateman happen? Like, they trying to keep Odell happy? Like, it seems like those factors are sort of holding back the offense a little bit, is what it seems like to me. But that's just from the eye test. I don't have any numbers or data to support that. It just kind of seems like their best way of moving the ball in the passing game, to me, would be heavily utilizing Zay Flowers on easy routes across the middle of the field and getting Mark Andrews to do what he always does. And it kind of seems like these deep balls to Aguilar and sideline shots to Odell just don't work. So I have been a little disappointed so far from what I've seen from a scheme system.
Mike, last week we had a rookie draft redo, and Jason was on the show, and he shared a little bit, just like Zay Flowers is one of the harder names to figure out where he is in the rookie pecking order. So would you rather have Zay Flowers or, well, Puka feels like up in the air now, Zay Flowers or JSN?
I'd still go JSN. I think he's the far more talented wide receiver, and we have some signs of life, and that, which is, I mean, that's all we need. We just give us some signs of life so we can calm those fears of, yeah, this was the best wide receiver in the class. So I would still go with him. I saw, was Addison, did Addison end up going first for you guys?
Yeah, Addison went as the first receiver.
That, I wonder how that goes now, of like knowing that it's not Kirk for the rest of the season. It's like,
yeah, our emotions from that episode where we had Puka, with Stafford injury, and then Addison, now we get a cut, like very different. We'd be coming in with very different vibes this week. Dynasty's weird because, yeah, Addison, you would have said like, oh, well, he's a slam dunk. He's proven it. And now you're questioning, I don't know what he is. Is it Josh Dobbs this week? Is it Jaron Hall? Who's the quarterback next year? It's wild, guys.
Yeah, and it could be like Josh Dobbs has been okay. So like the Minnesota people, Josh Dobbs is not coming to save your season. There was like, he's been,
come on, Mike.
He's not. He is a
Russian Hearts right on the show.
He is a fine quarterback, but there's been real deficiencies in his game, but it's just like long term this year, who's the quarterback next year? We already knew it was probably not going to be Kirk. And will Addison be good? Is Addison truly good enough to overcome a subpar starting quarterback? And I don't know. I don't have the answer for that right now.
Yeah. No, that's a big question. Let's take one more break and we'll be right back.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime. On Thursday, two of the NFL's grittiest teams go at it when the Tennessee Titans face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thursday Night Football, it's on Prime. Tune in early for pregame coverage with TNF Tonight, live from Pittsburgh. It's the Titans and the Steelers on Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for the 30-day free trial, and you can cancel at any time. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing, and once again, Toyota is leading the way. We hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota has them, with more on the way, but we also know a BEV is not for everyone. Whether it's because of cost, range, or concerns about finding a charging station when you need it, plus the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future, in vehicles and manufacturing plants too, in the years ahead. The materials used to make just one long-range battery for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas-electric hybrids. That's why Toyota's position today is electrified, diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint with the vehicle that's right for you, a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV. So shop, learn more, and get details at toyota.com/Beyond Zero. Toyota. Let's go places.
All right, let's keep this train moving. We're going to talk about a couple wide receivers and finish off with some tight ends. Betz, who is a young wide receiver and that you're looking at, and just kind of the bar, where is he at right now?
Yeah, this is a guy that, in the offseason, we really were not big fans of, just as far as his fantasy outlook, and that's Josh Downs. But, man, halfway through the year, he is an every week starter in fantasy. Like, you just lock him in because of the volume and his ability to earn targets. So I just kind of wanted to get your guys' temperature of where you're at with Josh Downs, where you see his floor ceiling combo at, because I still think, for me personally, I have some doubts and concerns that he could ever turn into an elite top 12, top 15 sort of fantasy wide receiver. But the guy is earning targets at a pretty high level so far this year. 20.1% targets per route run, 1.8% yards per route run. Those are awesome numbers for an undersized rookie wide receiver, in this system. So I'm at least intrigued that, this past offseason during the draft process, I was like, if someone else wants to take a shot on Josh Downs in the back of the second round or whatever, like, rookie draft, you do it, I'm going to pass. And now I'm kind of kicking myself. I wish I had some Josh Downs. So where are you guys at with the rookie in Indy?
Josh Downs to me is someone that I'm happy to hold for now, because I think he is a very helpful player for you right now. But if someone is bought in on Josh Downs being like a future great player for fantasy football, I would get out. What is he? What would Josh Downs' season look like right now if it was just a completely healthy Anthony Richardson? And I mean, it's really anyone's guess, but my guess would be not anything close to what is happening right now for Josh Downs, and same for Michael Pittman. This is a completely different offense than you're going to see. The future of the Colts is not Gardner. It's Richardson, and they are two very different players. Yes, Richardson has the big arm, so it's not that Josh Downs is going to disappear. Or he looks like a great wide receiver. There's a reason that Reggie Wayne, who's with the team, said, I thought Josh Downs was the best wide receiver in the class. That's a nice high praise from a Hall of Fame wide receiver. But those targets are not going to be as good and as frequent once Richardson is the quarterback next year. So if you can, where was Downs? Like a late second, maybe early third, or I can't remember.
For rookie picks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was like a back of the second type of guy.
Yeah, so if I can take that, got the production that I got right now, and someone wants to give me a first rounder for Josh Downs, I would do it.
That's fair.
I look at him as he's Jamison Crowder. That's it. And that's an okay career. That's somebody who can maybe be a top 30 wide receiver if he gets like 6 touchdowns. But I wonder if you're ever going to get anything more. The only thing I can put some trust in is that Shane Steichen's smart. He knows what he's doing. There's a reason this offense is still super fantasy relevant despite having Gardner Minshew. So
he almost didn't. I don't know how close you guys watched the game this week, but I almost had to just tear up all Colts paraphernalia that I had when they were in, like, I think they were in the red zone, and it was 4th and inches, and then they pulled the whole fake going for it. Like, it's 4th and inches, and you are in the red zone. Just go. Just give the ball to Moss. Give it. I don't care what you do. Just go. And then they took the delay of game. Like, they didn't call a timeout. They took a delay of game penalty. Go back 5 yards. Draw the other team off sides so they get the 5 yards back. But it's not a first down because they took the delay of game penalty. And then they went for it. And it was an easy Michael Pittman touchdown. So it was like, well, okay, we got there. But the fact that you didn't just automatically go for it, 4th and inches in the red zone that is disastrous coaching, in my opinion.
Chess.
So at the end of the day, we got there, but if things had gone according to plan, they would have just kicked the field goal, and I was ripping my hair out, screaming at the television, just go for it.
If it's Richardson, it's a tush push, they get in. Yeah, or they convert. But
you still have, Zach Moss has been great this year. Taylor was back, which Taylor might be banged up now, but at the time, it was, how do you not go for it here? It's so that what is the probability of you picking up a 4th and inches? Like high 80s, low 90 percentile? Don't be a coward. Play to win the game.
Mike Wright coming in,
oh man,
I love it.
Just doesn't like the cowardice.
No, oh my gosh. And then you have freaking Aikman and his war on analytics of like his favorite thing is, well, the analytics would always say go for it, which no, they do not. They definitely do not. It is game theory numbers. And then the best is, well, the analytics say go for it, and then what are they going to let's see if they were right. That's not the point, man. the point failure is built in to the numbers. It's not well, you need to go for it here because 100% of the time you're going to pick it up. No, of course not. Stop it. That's not how it works. Get a freaking education, man.
The Aikman Monday Night Football count. We should have like a count or a ticker of how many times he says analytics, because any 4th down, he is waiting to just hammer analytics. Also, one of the best quotes from Monday Night Football this past week, I believe he said, "I've never met a meatball I didn't like," during one of the kickoffs. Yeah, I saw it on Twitter today. It was so funny. I forget what it was in reference to, but anyone that watched Monday Night Football may have caught that. I live for the Aikman isms. They're so good.
He is very correct, because meatballs are one of the most delicious things ever made. And then it just reminded me of the 2 weeks ago when it was Dallas. I think the Dallas Chargers game, I believe, a couple weeks ago, and it was 4th and short, and it was, well, the analytics say you should go for it. Let's see if it's right. Dak, majestic fake handoff, rips off a 20-yard run or whatever for a touchdown. Where was it, Aikman? Where was whoa, they were right, because now they have a ton of points.
Yeah, there's no homerism coming in, but he saw the analytics of his statistics, and he would be a very, very below average quarterback in this day and age. So, sorry.
Take that.
Hey, but my 90s self thought he was good because they were winning, right?
Yeah, they won a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, did you give us the meatball video here, Betz?
Yeah, there it is for your enjoyment later.
I'll watch that later.
The meatball vid. I want to quickly throw out George Pickens because he's a different wide receiver this year. As a rookie, deep ball. Throw it deep. 36% of his targets were just deep. And what was that? Like a 1? It was very Fulton Reed-esque, to quote Mighty Ducks, like 1 out of 5. You feel like you'd get a Pickens target and go, okay. And then the next one you'd be like, this isn't going to work. This year, guys, 48% of his targets are in the intermediate area. That's 6th best among all wide receivers. Like, they're using him differently, and you're kind of seeing a different wide receiver where every week he's pretty dependable. I mean, last week was just 1 catch. It was a touchdown. It was the most George Pickens line ever. 1 catch, 22 yards, touchdown. But I feel like we're in the area now where George Pickens isn't just chuck it deep. And that makes him somebody that you can start almost every single week. Like, I have him, Mike, in Dino Jr. I traded for him. And I feel like every week, not only am I getting dependable points, like he can have boom weeks where he's my wide receiver 2, my flex, and I feel really good about it. So anything you guys are seeing from Pickens, has he morphed from just, what is he long-term to this guy's an NFL wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of one of those guys that came in that you weren't really sure what his role would be because everything was just these highlight reel contested catches, which they're so good. They're so fun to watch. And part of it was like, okay, well, is that just who he is? Is that the scheme with Matt Canada? What is it? And I just want to push back a little on this and just say, we need more of a sample size with Deontay Johnson in the lineup this year to know, is this actually what they want him to be and what he can be? Or not what he can be, but what the offense will let him be? Or is this just Deontay was out, we need to give Pickens a more expanded role and not just be this goal ball wide receiver? So in week 7, when Deontay came back, he did do that. Last week, he did not do that. So I just want to wait and see what happens this year with Deontay back in the lineup.
That's a good point, and we'll see on Thursday night against the Titans. So I like it when you disagree with me because, we don't do that a ton on when Betz and I record together. So stick it to me, Betz. Just tell me I'm an idiot.
I mean, you are an idiot, Kyle. Why? What kind of take is that on Jordan? No, I'm just kidding. I hear your point, Kyle, but respectfully, I disagree, and you look ridiculous.
Yes. I disrespectfully disagree.
Ooh. Get him, Mike. Get him.
Betz is absolutely right. I have little to zero faith in Matt Canada and his ability to have a competent offense. So
I will post some of these other metrics in an article. We're looking at year 1, year 2, and you wide receivers, kind of gauging where they are at. So it is interesting because I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out. Let's finish off real quick and talk about a couple of tight ends and where they're at. So year 1, year 2, year 3 tight ends. Mike, you kind of have the big name.
There's only one guy I want to talk about. I don't care about your guys.
Oh, go for it.
No, we'll close with mine. You talk about yours so we can make it quick.
Mine is just a sad thing.
Yeah. Man, you want to talk about the person that burned nuclear hot over the offseason? Okonkwo was the whole industry was like, no one's talking about Okonkwo, except everyone is talking about, everyone on Twitter was talking about Okonkwo and how this is the future. And okay, cue Kyle Sadness. Go ahead.
I was definitely not one that talked about him very much. I just, briefly made videos.
Sometimes in passing.
So
when you go to Kyle's Twitter, you'll see this post has been deleted.
Yeah, all of them.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I've canceled myself for any Okonkwo thoughts.
Kyle, there's a 3-month span of missing tweets.
Oh, man. On the main show.
Don't worry about that.
We did a 10 things to remember, and I talked about tight end stats for Dynasty, and I used Chig as the poster boy for it. And what you love seeing from Chig last year was down the field stuff. Guys, his yards after the catch per reception is cut in half this year. It's short stuff only. And then this past week, as I was watching that Levis film, like we all did, he had a massive drop on a play that he could have had at least 30 yards after the catch. So it hasn't been good. He was second on the team in routes run this past week. So need to leave the light on. I mean, you're not obviously, he's just going to sit on your bench, but he's talented enough, young enough to at least just say, hey, he's not done. But it's not encouraging this year. Under 1 yards per route run, that is not good. So just wanted to throw out Chig, mention his name, and he might have a pulse. That's as far as I can go. Betz.
So he's a tight end fantasy not named Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson. He's just one of those at this point to me. So we'll see. Dalton Kincaid, I just wanted to talk about quickly his expanded role without Dawson Knox. I think it was just, if you have him in Dynasty, this is everything you are hoping it would be, where he is not just on the field a bunch, but earning targets and routes and being a focal point of the offense. Last week, he was third on the team in routes behind only Diggs and Gabe Davis. So this is what you're going to get as long as Dawson Knox is out. And we don't have a firm timetable on that, but we know he's on IR, so it'll be another 3 weeks or so at least. But even when Dawson Knox comes back, I don't know how the Bills see what Dalton Kincaid was capable of in this expanded role and go back to what they were doing before. So I'm very excited about what Dalton Kincaid could be this season and obviously in Dynasty.
All right, now the real conversation is here. Let's talk about T. McB, a.k.a. Trey McBride, who we were asked on the main podcast, like, what is the Dynasty out? And this, like, maybe a month ago or so. What is the Dynasty outlook for Trey McBride? And at that time, it was like, I think our answer was essentially, the Viking funeral has started. Like, we haven't fired the arrows out yet, so there's a chance that he goes zombie on us. But as of right now, it feels bad. And this is, to me, just goes back to another bad coaching decisions. Last year, when Trey McBride is a rookie, I totally get it. Let Zach Ertz be the veteran presence. You're trying to win games. But this year, you don't have your starting quarterback for half the season. Behind the scenes, it sounds like they knew exactly how long they would not have Kyler. Why are you forcing Zach Ertz out there? Like, this is a try not to lose strategy. It's not a try to win. It's a try not to lose strategy. Yards after contact, it's completely gone. That does not exist in Zach Ertz's game anymore. His recovery and everything, happy for the man he's injured now. That's why we're even talking about this. But the fact that we had such low snaps, low production for Trey McBride, who was the first tight end drafted back when he was a second-round pick just 2 years ago, when we've seen him as a full-time player, including one game, Kyle, I think, was it against the Falcons, if I remember right? 7 for 70 with a touchdown. Just, I mean, electric stuff that very few tight ends in the league can even dream about putting up a game like that. And then they put him right back on the bench for Zach Ertz. Was ridiculous. Full-time Trey McBride, right immediately, a 14-target game, huge production for T. McB. And it's, yes, of course, this is what it should be. But what is our confidence level? And maybe that's a Josh Dobbs thing. Like, maybe, when Kyler's back, or it's Clayton Tune for a week, whatever, regardless. Kyler will be here for the rest of the season. Will he continue targeting the tight end position as much as Josh Dobbs did? Will they keep letting Trey McBride actually be a focal point of the offense? That remains to be seen. So we're kind of at an inflection point in the canon of Trey McBride. And are you, at this point right now, would you be pushing your chips all in, or would you keep your stack of money and just let the flop happen?
If I had him,
that was a poker reference, by the way.
Oh yeah, poker face. I got it. Let's say that he's your tight end 2, and you're just like, okay, it's more of like a luxury to have him on your team. If there's somebody else in your league that's willing to pay up for him after this past week, because 14 targets is insane, 39% of the team's targets insane, and being targeted on 27% of your routes is insane. That's probably the best it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
So do you think you could get a late first for him?
I mean, that's what a lot of people spent just to draft him, though.
Right.
So would you be saying cash out? But it's like, okay, so let's say he's your tight end 2, but there's a lot of people where it's like your tight end 1 is Evan Engram. Your tight end 1 is Darren Waller. Your tight end 1 is Kyle Pitts. I mean, like there's Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and Hawkinson. Other than that, I don't know that it matters who your tight end. Well, maybe Sam Laporta, because it seems like he is skyrocketing. But like even Kittle still has his explosive games, but he just absolutely vanishes for huge stretches of time. So what? Aside from those tight ends, if you had those at your tight end 1, would you really be willing, like you want to bail out on McBride, or is it better for your dynasty team to see what he becomes?
I'll just give this a quick take from last week. So before this game where he exploded, we got the news of Zach Ertz on IR, and I was like, well, I'm just going to put him on the trade block and just see what people offer. And it was like, man, it was like, in a Superflex league, it was like PJ Walker in a third and like just random stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to keep him and just hope. And then this happened and I'm like, okay. So I put him back on the block to see.
Oh,
I got some projected early second offers from non-contending teams.
I would not. And
that's what I mean. It's like, well, that's not really enough of a difference maker to me. I'd at least look. We're starving for tight ends that can actually make a difference in fantasy, and it's the smallest sample. But in games where he has gotten opportunity, he has earned targets, and it's so hard to find that at the tight end position. This is a guy in college who caught over 1,000 yards in his final year.
Dominant.
That does not happen for college tight ends. So unless someone I think offers me at least a late first, I'm probably just holding on and seeing what I got.
Yeah, that's probably the best advice because, like I said, my gut was I need at least a late first, and I don't know if I'm going to get it. And at the end of the day, it's probably best just to say, let me wait, see where this goes. And like Mike mentioned, if you're one of those teams that doesn't have an elite tight end, sweet, mix and match. You can play McBride. You can play some other guys, Ferguson, whoever, and just kind of ride it out from there. But
and what is the future of the Cardinals pass catchers? Hollywood Brown is a free agent. His name was floated a lot for the trade deadline that has come and gone. He's still on the team, but at least as of right now, they don't have an extension for him. It's like Michael Wilson, and we're probably near the end of Rondale Moore's contract as well. There's you don't want to get too far in front of your skis because in Dynasty, it's very, very difficult to not overreact. But there are not many tight ends who you can at least, if you close your eyes, just like have them open just enough, like so that there's like barely any light coming into your eyes. There's very few tight ends where you can see the path that this is a player who could be in the offense a Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce. I'm not putting his skill or his talent level there right now, but saying very few teams actually build around the tight end position. That's kind of the biggest problem I think for all of us is there's a lot of really talented tight ends out there, but no one gets the Travis Kelce treatment or the Mark Andrews treatment where they are truly the first read in the offense. Is there a chance that – so I'll ask that question to close out the conversation. Is there a chance, in your opinion, that Trey McBride can become the number one read in this offense next year?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a chance.
Yeah. You're saying
I don't know how
there's
big the chance is. So you're telling me there's a chance.
But I can go through the rest of,
Oh, sure.
Is there a chance that George Kittle is the number one? Nope. Cole Kmet? Nope. Ingram? No. Goddard? No. Logan Thomas? No. Pitts? No. Schultz? No. Jake Ferguson? No. It's a real easy. You just slam the door shut and say, no, impossible. Maybe McBride
yes.
There's at least the light seeps in.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
It's probably no. Don't hear what I'm not saying. It's probably no.
Very true.
but of right now, it's not a definitive one.
Yeah. And that's rare. Like you said, if you just start going team by team, all 32 teams, you can start realizing like, wow, there's a lot fewer than you think. So that's going to do it for this episode. Next week, we will get to talk about some of our mid-season Dynasty awards with Jason and get to talk through some of that. So that's going to do it for us. You can check out everything at fantasyfootballers.com. If you want to be a part of our community, join thefoot.com and hang out with us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.
Hey, this is Peter Schrager from the podcast The Season with Peter Schrager, and it is football season, and you can now get almost anything you need for game day delivered with Uber Eats. What do they mean by almost? Can Uber Eats deliver you foam fingers? No. Chicken fingers? Yes. Touchdown dances? No. Buttermilk ranches? Yes. Field goals? No. Grilling coals? Yes. And there you have it. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Product availability may vary by region. See the app for details.